Have you ever been there? You're traveling, you're somewhere new, and it's time to pray, but you have absolutely no idea which way the Qibla is. It's a situation that, honestly, most of us have faced at some point. So what do? What's the right move when finding the direction feels, well, impossible? Today, we're going to dive into the surprisingly practical and merciful guidance that Islamic tradition offers for this exact problem.
I want you to really picture this. It's a dark night, you're in a place you've never been before, maybe your phone is dead, so no compass app, and there is literally no one around to ask. But the time for prayer is right now. How in the world do you fulfill this core part of your faith when you can't be sure you're even facing the right way? It feels like a genuine dilemma.
So the problem really starts here. Facing the Qibla, the direction of the Kaaba in Mecca, isn't just a suggestion. It's one of the foundational conditions for your prayer to be valid. It's a non-negotiable. So what happens when that condition seems completely impossible to meet?
And let's be super clear, this ruling isn't for when you're just feeling a little lazy or don't want to bother checking. No, it applies under very specific conditions. You genuinely cannot figure out the direction, and you have no means to ask anyone. It's in that moment of true uncertainty that this guidance becomes so incredibly practical.
So what's the solution? Well, it isn't some magic loophole or a free pass. Instead, it all centers on this profound principle of sincere effort and personal investigation. This idea that the effort is what matters more than a perfect outcome is actually a huge concept in Islamic ethics.
And this right here, this is the absolute key. When certainty is just not possible, your obligation, your duty, actually shifts. It's no longer about hitting the bullseye of the exact Qibla direction. Instead, your duty becomes the act of trying your best to find it. The entire focus moves from the final result to the process itself.
This whole process even has a name, ijtihad. It basically means you exert yourself, you make a diligent effort, and you investigate using whatever signs are available to you. Maybe it's the position of the sun, the stars, maybe you know which way moss grows on trees, whatever you can use to make your best educated guess. This single concept is what unlocks everything else.
Okay, so you've made your effort. You've done your ijtihad. What happens next? Well, it turns out your investigation can lead to one of 4 possible outcomes, and the ruling for each one is distinct and honestly pretty logical when you break it down.
All right, so this is probably the most common scenario, right? You try your absolute best, you pick a direction, you pray, and then later you find out you were totally wrong. So what's the ruling? Your prayer is perfectly valid. You do not have to repeat it. And why? Because you fulfilled the duty that was required of you in that moment, which was the act of trying.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. It's grounded in a real event. There's a well-known story where the Prophet's companions were in this exact situation. It was a dark night. They all made their best guess for the Qibla and prayed. Later, when they told the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, what happened, he affirmed their prayers, telling them, "Your prayer is complete. There is no need to repeat it."
Okay, second outcome. What if you figure out the correct direction while you're in the middle of praying? Maybe the clouds part and you see the moon, or someone comes in and quietly points the right way. The ruling is simple. You immediately turn towards the correct Qibla, right there, mid-prayer, and just continue from where you were. No need to stop and start all over.
And the famous, classic example of this is the story of the people of Kuba. They were praying towards Jerusalem when someone came with the news that the Qibla had been officially changed to the Kaaba in Mecca. And what did they do? Mid-prayer, the entire congregation just turned to face the new direction. Their action was approved, and it's a powerful image of a living, responsive faith.
Now for outcome number 3. This is when you just don't bother. You don't try to figure it out, you don't look for signs, you don't ask, you just pick a random direction and go for it. Well, in that case, if you find out you are wrong, that prayer is considered invalid. You absolutely have to repeat it because you skipped the most important step, making an effort. I mean, look at this side by side. The distinction couldn't be clearer. On one side, you make an effort, even if you mess up, and your duty is fulfilled. Your prayer is valid. On the other side, you make no effort, and the duty is abandoned. The prayer is invalid. It really just hammers home the point that it's not about getting the answer right, it's about the sincerity of your attempt.
And here's the last one, which might be the most surprising of all. Let's say you make absolutely no effort, you just randomly face a direction. But by pure, dumb luck, you happen to be correct. Well, in this case, your prayer is considered valid. And you might ask why. It's because that fundamental bottom-line condition, facing the Qibla, was actually met even if it was a total accident.
So let's just put this all together for a second. As you can see, the key factor that runs through all of this is diligent effort, that ijtihad we talked about. If you make the effort, your prayer is accepted even if you get it wrong. If you don't, your prayer is only saved by pure chance. It just reveals a system that really truly values sincere intention and effort above all else.
To really help this concept stick, the tradition gives us this absolutely beautiful and powerful analogy. It compares the person praying to an archer, and that act of ijtihad to the act of shooting an arrow. Think about it like this. The person who tries their best, who does their ijtihad, even if they end up facing the completely wrong direction, is like an archer who has drawn their bow, aimed as carefully as they could, and let the arrow fly. They have fulfilled the fundamental task of an archer, which is the act of shooting. The mission was accomplished, even if the arrow didn't hit the dead center of the target.
But in contrast, the person who doesn't even try to find the Qibla, they're like someone who's standing right there in front of the target but refuses to even pick up the bow and arrow. They have failed at the most basic task. They haven't even engaged in the process. This analogy just perfectly captures why the effort is what really truly counts.
And so all this leaves us with a final thought that goes way beyond just the direction of prayer. This incredible principle that we are judged on our sincere effort rather than on achieving perfect results, that's profound. So the question to reflect on is this: how does knowing this change your perspective on trying, on striving, and maybe even on making mistakes in all the other parts of your life?